Welcome back to Europe House Tour. So here's something a lot of people have been asking lately. With property prices in major European cities just keep going up and up, is there still anywhere on this continent where your money can actually buy you a real home? Like a proper address, running utilities, decent living space? The answer is yes, and more often than not, it's hiding in these quiet little towns that most people never think to look at. In today's video, we're checking out 6 properties currently for sale in Sicily, southern Italy. One of the few places in Europe where prices are still genuinely affordable compared to the rest of the continent. These 6 are spread across Alessandria della Rocca, Cianciana, and Calatabiano, and they're listed anywhere from 12,000 euros to 25,000 euros. All multi-story townhouses ranging from 60 to 120 square meters. And they all share one thing in common. The price per square meter is significantly below the local average. Some are coming in at around just 100 euros per square meter. Now, I want to be upfront about this right from the start. A low listing price is just the starting point. It's not the whole story. So for each property, we're not just going to look at the number on the listing. We're going to look at the actual condition of the house, what daily amenities are within walking distance, how far it is to the nearest hospital, train station, and airport, and also the real additional costs, transfer tax, notary fees, survey fees. The stuff that first-time buyers often don't find out about until it's too late. This channel exists for one simple reason: to help you find good value property in Europe in a way that's honest and practical. Whether you're looking for a holiday home, a place to slow down after years of hustle, or you're just curious how far your money can actually go somewhere else in the world. Alright, let's get into it. Out of these 6, let's see which one gives you the best balance between real costs and real value. Our first property today takes us to Alessandria della Rocca, a small town in the province of Agrigento, Sicily, southern Italy. It sits inland, up at about 533 meters above sea level, so it's actually cooler than the coastal parts of Sicily. The historic center is largely intact, and just about 1.5 kilometers away is the Santuario Madonna della Rocca, a local religious pilgrimage site. This isn't a tourist hotspot by any means, and honestly, that's exactly the point. For a certain type of buyer, someone who wants to step away from the noise and find a quiet corner of Europe at a price that actually makes sense, this kind of place is exactly what they're looking for. The property on Via Melli is listed at 12,000 euros, the lowest price in today's entire lineup. It's a 4-story townhouse, around 120 square meters total, which works out to roughly 100 euros per square meter. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Currently vacant, listed as habitable, and it's a previously lived-in older home. Energy rating is G, the lowest on the scale. And that's something you'll want to factor into your budget if you're planning to live here long-term. Layout-wise, it follows that classic vertical Sicilian townhouse style. Ground floor has the kitchen, storage, pantry, bathroom, and entrance. Very typical for historic towns where the ground floor is used for daily living and storage. Then the 3 floors above each have a small room and a bedroom. And at the very top, a terrazza, a rooftop terrace with panoramic views over the surrounding area. For a home under 20,000 euros to come with a panoramic terrace, that's a genuine plus. Now let's be real about the condition. An energy rating of G means heating in winter and cooling in summer will likely cost more until you upgrade the windows, insulation, or HVAC. And with a 4-story vacant property, you'll want to closely inspect the staircase, roof, terrace waterproofing, electrical plumbing, drainage, and wall damp. The listing says it's habitable, but with any older vacant home, the recommendation is always to bring in a geometra, a local building surveyor, before you put down a deposit. That'll cost you roughly 300 euros to 800 euros, and trust me, it's money very well spent compared to what could go wrong later. On daily amenities, the location inside the town is a real advantage. From Via Melli, you can reach Farmacia Amarelli Pietro on Via Umberto in about 250 meters. Walking distance. The medical center and Guardia Medica are about 300 meters away. The Cry or Coop supermarket on Via Nazionale is about 600 meters. Banco di Sicilia on Via Roma, about 500 meters. 2 local restaurants, Ristorante La Giara and Ristorante Al Papiro, are within 350 to 600 meters. There's also a primary school and kindergarten within 500 meters. For a small inland Sicilian town, that's actually a solid walkable setup. You don't need a car for your daily basics. For a bit of range, the southwestern coast of Sicily around Ciaca is about 35 kilometers away, roughly 30 to 40 minutes by car. Mediterranean beaches, well-regarded easy day trip, and Agrigento, home to the Valley of the Temples, one of the most iconic historical sites in all of Europe, is also within a reasonable drive. Now the price per square meter picture is where things get really interesting. According to market data from Immobiliar.it as of April 2026, the average listing price in Alessandria della Rocca is around €308 per square meter, while the Agrigento province average sits at about €822 per square meter. This property is coming in at roughly 67% below the local average and about 88% below the provincial average. On top of that, prices in Alessandria della Rocca reportedly rose around 38.74% over the past year, which is a significant jump for a small market. That said, a big discount doesn't automatically mean great value or easy resale. You still need to check why it's priced this way: actual condition, legal paperwork, renovation costs, and what selling it on in a small town market actually looks like. Here's a rough cost framework beyond the listing price. Pre-purchase survey, €300 to €800. Notary fees and basic taxes, €2,500 to €4,500. Light refresh, paint, minor repairs, surface works, €5,000 to €15,000. Electrical, plumbing, or partial system upgrades, €8,000 to €25,000. Basic energy upgrades, new windows, insulation, heating system, an additional €10,000 to €30,000. That last scenario is the extreme end. But you need to know that number exists before you make a decision. This property makes the most sense for someone looking to enter the Sicilian market at a very low price point, who doesn't mind a multi-story layout, is willing to do a proper technical inspection, and has a phased renovation plan in mind. It could also work well as a quiet second home inland. No need for the buzz of a beach resort. On the flip side, if you're older and stairs are a concern, if you need regular access to a major hospital, the Agrigento Hospital is about 65 kilometers away, or if you want a modern move-in ready home with minimal work, this one isn't quite there yet. Same goes if you don't own a car and need to travel outside the town regularly. Public transport options here are limited. The biggest draw here is simple: €12,000 for 120 square meters in a town with solid walkable amenities, a panoramic rooftop terrace, less than an hour from the sea. That combination is genuinely rare at this price. It's not a problem-free property, and it absolutely needs a proper inspection before you sign anything. But if you're looking for a real entry point into Sicily with daily essentials on your doorstep, Mediterranean coast within reach, and the feel of a living historic town, this one is very much worth putting on your short list. Our second property keeps us in Sicily, but we're moving to a different town. Cianciana, also in the province of Agrigento, not far from Alessandria della Rocca. Cianciana is a small inland town, tucked in between the Sicily Mountains and the Platani River Valley. It's not a name you'd find on most international travel maps. And honestly, that's exactly why property prices here are still so reasonable compared to the rest of Italy. The historic center still has that traditional stone architecture feel, and one of the most recognizable landmarks in town is the clock tower, built in 1908. The property we're looking at today, Casa Argirò on Via Roccaforte, sits right in that historic center, just a short walk from the tower. Casa Argirò is listed at €13,000. It's a 4-story townhouse, around 120 square meters total, working out to about €108 per square meter. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Currently vacant, listed as habitable, older, previously lived-in home, energy rating G. One thing worth noting, the listing includes 29 photos, which is actually quite a lot compared to most listings at this price point. So you get a pretty clear picture of what you're walking into before you even book a visit. Layout-wise, each floor is around 30 square meters. Small, but not unusual for a historic Sicilian townhouse, where everything goes vertical instead of spreading out. Ground floor has a kitchen dining room and a shower bathroom. First floor has a bedroom and a bathroom. Second floor has another bedroom. And the top floor, the third, has an extra room, a full bathroom with a bathtub, and a panoramic terrazza. There's one important detail the listing flags, though. The house is described as finished, except for the staircase leading up to the top floor. It's a small thing on paper, but it directly affects access to that terrace, and it's something that needs to be sorted before you can fully use the space. On condition and what to watch out for, even though it's listed as habitable, there are a few things to look at carefully. The unfinished staircase is the obvious first one. Get a cost estimate and a safety check on that early. Energy rating G means heating and cooling costs will likely run high until you upgrade windows, insulation, or climate systems. Being in a historic center also sometimes comes with restrictions on how you can renovate the facade and what materials you can use. Definitely worth asking a local geometra about before you plan any work. And as with any older vacant property, the electrical, plumbing, drainage, and ventilation systems all need a proper look before you commit. For daily amenities, Cianciana actually punches above its weight for a town this size. From Via Roccaforte, the weekly market at the main square, i.e. held every Tuesday, fresh produce, meat, cheese, seafood, household goods, is about 250 meters on foot. The supermarket La Spesa Che Ti Piace on Via Antonino Amato is around 450 meters. Banca Popolare S. Angelo and a Unicredit ATM are in a similar range. The local medical center and Guardia Medica are about 550 to 700 meters away. Primary school and kindergarten both within a kilometer. And there's Panificio San Giuseppe, a well-reviewed bakery on TripAdvisor, and Cortile Halicos restaurant, both within 400 to 500 meters. That's enough for daily life without being fully dependent on a car within the town itself. Beyond the town, the southern Sicilian coast, beaches like Secca Grande, Eraclea Minoa, San Giorgio, and Bovo Marina, is about 30 minutes by car. These are quieter Mediterranean beaches, less crowded than the big resort areas. Great if you like a calmer vibe. The Sicani Mountains are about 20 minutes away, with Monte Camerata, 1,579 meters high, being a solid destination for anyone who enjoys hiking and nature. Now, the price per square meter picture. At 108 euros per square meter, Casa Argirò stands out quite a bit. According to Immobiliare.yamit data from April 2026, the average listing price in Cianciana is around 545 euros per square meter, meaning this property is priced roughly 80% below the local average. The Agrigento province average sits at about 822 euros per square meter, making the gap even wider. It's also worth noting that average prices in Cianciana have risen about 20.31% over the past year, while average rental prices went up around 24.14% in the same period. Interesting numbers to keep in mind, but not something to treat as a guaranteed trend. A big discount still means you need to dig into the real condition, the actual cost to get it where you want it, and what resale looks like for a multi-story townhouse in a small town market. For costs beyond the listing price, here's a rough framework to work with. Pre-purchase geometra survey, around 300 to 800 euros. Don't skip this. Notary fees and basic taxes, around 2,500 to 4,500 euros. Finishing the top floor staircase and a safety check could run about 1,500 to 6,000 euros depending on the scope. Light refresh, paint, minor repairs, around 5,000 to 15,000 euros. Partial electrical or plumbing upgrades, 8,000 to 25,000 euros. Basic terrace waterproofing, 2,000 to 8,000 euros. Nobody wants those higher-end scenarios, but you need to know they exist before you make a call. This property makes the most sense for someone who wants a very low entry point into the Sicilian market, likes the feel of a historic town, doesn't mind stairs, and is happy to finish things out gradually. Starting with that staircase and a full systems check. It also works well as a quiet second home in Sicily with walkable daily amenities and no need for the buzz of a beach town. On the other hand, if you need single-floor accessibility, want to be right by the sea without a car, or need quick access to a major hospital regularly, the nearest emergency hospital is in Ribera, about 15 kilometers away, then this one needs a bit more thinking. That distance is worth factoring in if this would be your primary residence. The core appeal of Casa Argirò is straightforward. 13,000 euros for 120 square meters, right in the historic center of Cianciana, with a panoramic terrace, walkable amenities, and a reasonable drive to beaches, mountains, and Sicilian heritage sites. It's not without its issues. The unfinished staircase and the energy rating G are real things that need addressing. But if you're looking for a small property full of potential in Sicily, at a price point that almost nowhere else in Europe can match right now, this one is absolutely worth putting on your serious shortlist. Our third property today takes us out of Agrigento province entirely and moves us to a completely different part of Sicily, Calatabiano, in the province of Catania on the eastern coast of the island. This is a noticeably different world compared to the first two properties. Calatabiano sits right in the triangle between Taormina, Giardini Naxos, and the foot of Mount Etna, three of the most well-known destinations in all of Sicily. And rising right above the town is Castello di Calatabiano, a historic fortress looking out over the sea and the valley below. From the terrace of this property, you can actually see the Castello, the Ionian Sea, the hills of Taormina and Castelmola all at once. The property is listed at 13,000 euros. It's a detached terracielo-style home, meaning it runs from ground floor all the way up to the roof, with a commercial area of about 73 square meters and a usable living area of around 66 square meters spread across 3 floors. That works out to roughly 178 euros per square meter. 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, according to the structural data in the listing, though the written description mentions bathrooms on both the ground floor and the second floor, so that's worth clarifying directly with the agent before drawing any conclusions. The house was built in 1960, has no heating system, and the listing states clearly that it needs renovation. Da ristrutturare. Energy rating is not disclosed. The 3-floor layout is fairly straightforward. Ground floor has a living and dining room combined, plus a bathroom. First floor has a bedroom with a balcony. Second floor has a laundry area, bathroom, and terrace. And that top floor terrace is honestly the headline feature here. Views of the Castello, the Ionian Sea, the hills of Taormina and Castelmola. That combination is genuinely hard to find at 13,000 euros anywhere on the Mediterranean coast. That said, the listing is upfront about what this property is. Needs renovation, built in 1960, no heating system. Those 3 things together mean the real cost will be significantly higher than the listing price. Here's a practical cost framework to work with. Pre-purchase geometry survey, around 300 to 800 euros. Notary fees and taxes, around 2,500 to 4,500 euros. Installing air conditioning or a heating system, roughly 3,000 to 9,000 euros. Basic terrace waterproofing, 2,000 to 8,000 euros. And if you're looking at a full renovation across 73 square meters, the reference range from Idealista 2026 puts that at approximately 73,000 to 131,400 euros. That's a number you need to look at honestly before making a decision. On daily amenities, the MD supermarket on Via Garibaldi is about 800 meters away. Farmacia Franco Giorgio on Via Umberto is around 200 meters. Restaurant Il Borgo del Saraceno is about 300 meters. And Calatabiano train station, on the Messina to Siracusa line, is about 1 kilometer away. That last point is actually a meaningful advantage compared to the inland properties earlier in this list. The hospital, train station, and airport are all within roughly 15 minutes by car. For market context, Immobiliar.it data from April 2026 puts the average listing price in Calatabiano at around 649 euros per square meter, with the Catania province average at about 1,138 euros per square meter. At 178 euros per square meter, this property is priced about 72.57% below the local average. One thing worth watching though, sale prices in Calatabiano have been trending down about 10.48% over the past year, while rental prices have actually gone up around 13.19%. That's a mixed signal worth monitoring rather than reading in just one direction. This property makes the most sense for a buyer who has a clear renovation budget, wants to own something with sea views and a castle backdrop in one of Sicily's most active tourist areas, and is close to both Taormina and Catania Airport. It's not the right fit for someone who needs to move in right away or doesn't have meaningful renovation funds set aside. At 13,000 euros for a property with Castello views, sea views, and sitting within 7 kilometers of Taormina, that's rare. But the renovation costs are not a footnote here, they're a core part of the story. You need to come at this one with the mindset of a buyer who has a plan, not someone looking for a place that's ready to go. Our fourth property brings us back to Cianciana, the same town we visited for property number 2. But this one is a different beast altogether. Casa Leone on Via Blancina, sitting close to Piazza Largo San Gaetano in the historic center. What makes this one stand out from everything else in today's list is that it's actually formed from 2 adjacent buildings that were merged into a single property. And that one fact creates both the opportunity and the key due diligence question you need to answer before anything else. Casa Leone is listed at 25,000 euros, 4-story townhouse around 115 square meters total, working out to about 217 euros per square meter. 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The highest bedroom and bathroom count in today's entire lineup. Currently vacant, listed as habitable older home, energy rating G. The listing also comes with 42 photos, the most of any property today. So you get a pretty thorough look at the actual condition before you even think about booking a visit. The 4-floor layout goes like this. Ground floor has a kitchen and living room. First floor has a bedroom, a bathroom, and a loft conversion area. Second floor has a room and a shower bathroom. And the top floor, third floor, has a second kitchen, a bathroom, a laundry room, and a panoramic terrace. That second kitchen on the top floor is a direct reflection of the property's origin as 2 separate buildings. And it could actually be a genuine advantage if you want to use different floors independently. But it also means you need to verify that the merge was done properly in the cadastral records. And that brings us to the most important thing to check with Casa Leone. Because this property was formed by joining 2 adjacent blocks, you need to request and review the cadastral file, confirm that the merger was done legally, check the load-bearing wall between the 2 original structures, verify the electrical and plumbing connections between both sides, and confirm insurability. On top of that, energy rating G, a historic center location, and 4 floors of older vacant building all mean the usual checks apply. Waterproofing, roof, staircase, wall damp, and facade renovation regulations. On daily amenities, since it's also in central Cianciana, Casa Leone shares most of the same walkable infrastructure we covered in Property 2. The Tuesday weekly market at the main square is about 250 meters away. La Spesa Che Ti Piace supermarket around 400 meters, Cry supermarket about 800 meters. 2 pharmacies within 350 to 450 meters, Unicredit ATM and Banca Popolare Ciangelo within 300 to 350 meters. Local medical center around 550 meters, Guardia Medica about 700 meters. The nearest hospital with an emergency room is in Ribera, about 20 kilometers away, roughly 25 to 30 minutes by car. Cortile Halicos Restaurant and Panificio San Giuseppe Bakery within 400 meters. And the 1908 Clock Tower, Cianciana's most recognizable landmark, is just 250 meters away. Lake Fanaco for fishing and birdwatching, and Macalube Nature Reserve, with its unique volcanic mud phenomenon, are also within a short drive. For connections outside the town, the beaches at Secca Grande, Eraclea Minoa, and Bovo Marina are about 30 minutes by car according to the listing. The Sicani Mountains and Monte Camerata around 20 minutes. Scala dei Turci and the Valley of the Temples in Agrigento about 40 minutes. Verdura Golf Resort around 35 minutes. Palermo Airport is about 118 kilometers away, roughly 2.5 hours by car. The nearest train station at Camerata San Giovanni Gemini is about 27 kilometers by road. Worth double-checking on Google Maps before relying on that figure. On the market pricing side, at 217 euros per square meter, Casa Leone is still about 60% below the Cianciana average of 545 euros per square meter as of April 2026, and about 73% below the Agrigento province average of 822 euros per square meter. Compared to the other Cianciana property earlier in this list, the price per square meter is higher here, but you're getting more rooms, more floor area, and a much more detailed listing to work with. For costs beyond the listing price, geometry survey around 300 to 800 euros, notary fees and taxes around 2,500 to 4,500 euros. On top of that, factor in the cadastral review for the merged structure, partial electrical and plumbing upgrades in the range of 8,000 to 25,000 euros, terrace waterproofing around 2,000 to 8,000 euros, and basic energy upgrades around 10,000 to 30,000 euros. A full renovation across 115 square meters using the Idealista 2026 framework could reach anywhere from 115,000 to 207,000 euros. A number worth knowing even if nobody's planning to go there. Casa Leone makes the most sense for a buyer who wants more rooms for under 30,000 euros, enjoys the atmosphere of a historic town center, and is genuinely prepared to dig into the legal paperwork of a merged property. It's not the right fit for someone who wants a straightforward purchase process, needs single-floor living, or doesn't have the time to properly verify the cadastral records and structural integrity. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a panoramic terrace, and a historic center location in Cianciana for 25,000 euros. That's a very low entry price for this amount of space. But the legal file on those 2 merged buildings is the thing that needs to be resolved completely before any other number in this deal starts to mean anything. Our 6th and final property today is also in Cianciana, on the same street as Casa Francisco, via Catania. And this is probably the one that needs the most careful introduction in terms of layout, because Casa Elizabeth has a structural feature that sets it apart from everything else we've looked at today. 4 rooms, each with its own completely independent entrance, with no internal connection between them. That's unusual, and it directly affects how you can actually use this home day to day. Casa Elizabeth is listed at 25,000 euros, around 60 square meters across 2 floors, working out to roughly 417 euros per square meter. The highest price per square meter in today's entire lineup. 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Currently vacant, energy rating G, and the listing states the property has recently been restructured and is ready to move into. Now let's talk about that layout because it really matters here. 4 separate rooms, each with its own front door, no internal hallway connecting them. In practical terms, moving between rooms could mean stepping outside and coming back in through a different entrance. That's not how most people picture using a home. If you want to create internal connections between the rooms, you'd need to check load-bearing walls, apply for building permits, and calculate the cost of opening up passageways. And that's not a simple process in a historic center. On condition, the listing says recently restructured and move-in ready, which is a genuine plus compared to most of what we've seen today. But even with that, a geometry check on the electrical, plumbing, drainage, waterproofing, and ventilation is still worth doing before you put down a deposit. Cost framework to keep in mind. Geometry survey around 300 to 800 euros. Notary fees and taxes around 2,500 to 4,500 euros. Assessing the feasibility of internal connections roughly 500 to 1,500 euros. Actually opening up those connections, if you go ahead, around 3,000 to 15,000 euros. Electrical and plumbing upgrades if needed around 8,000 to 20,000 euros. Full renovation across 60 square meters using the Idealista 2026 framework could reach 60,000 to 108,000 euros. On daily amenities, Casa Elizabeth is on the same street as Casa Francisco, so the picture is almost identical. Tuesday weekly market at the main square about 300 meters away. La Spesa che ti piace supermarket around 450 meters, Cry about 800 meters. 2 pharmacies within 450 meters. Unicredit ATM and Banca Popolare Sangelo within 350 to 450 meters. Primary School E. De Amicis about 450 meters. Walt Disney Kindergarten around 750 meters. Local Medical Center about 600 meters. Guardia Medica around 700 meters. Nearest emergency hospital at Ribera about 20 kilometers, roughly 25 minutes by car. There's also Sunset Garden Club, a community pool and restaurant, about 1.2 kilometers away, which is actually a nice bonus for Sicilian summers. The clock tower is around 350 meters, and the historic stone Chiesa del Calvario, with its lovely views, is also nearby. Southern Beach is about 30 minutes by car, Sicily Mountains around 20 minutes, Scala dei Turchi and Valley of the Temples about 40 minutes, Verdura Golf Resort roughly 35 minutes. Palermo Airport around 118 kilometers, about 2.5 hours by car. On market pricing at 417 euros per square meter, Casa Elizabeth is only about 23.55% below the Cianciana average of 545 euros per square meter as of April 2026, the smallest discount in today's entire list. Compared to the Agrigento province average of 822 euros per square meter, it's about 49.31% below. That narrower gap likely reflects the fact that this property has already been restructured and is listed as move-in ready. Casa Elizabeth makes the most sense for someone who wants a property that's already been worked on and doesn't need major intervention before use, and who can either accept or find a practical way to work with 4 independent spaces, perhaps using individual rooms for different purposes like storage, a small workshop, or a dedicated workspace. It's not the right fit for someone who wants a conventional family layout with an internal hallway, for older buyers who don't want to step outside to move between rooms, or for anyone trying to maximize usable space per euro spent. Because at 417 euros per square meter, this is the least competitive property on that measure in today's list. The move-in ready status is a real plus, but the 4 separate entrances with no internal connection is a question you need to answer definitively before putting down a deposit, because that's not something a fresh coat of paint is going to fix. Our 5th property today stays in Cianciana, but tells a different story from the ones before it. Casa Francisco on Via Catania, a 3-story stone townhouse with that deep, traditional Sicilian architectural character. What makes this one genuinely different is the split personality of the property. The main house on Via Catania is described in the listing as being in good condition, but the ground floor section facing Salita Mattagliano, which used to be a stable, is rustic, needs renovation, and is currently not connected to the rest of the house. So you're essentially looking at 2 very different spaces under one roof, and you need to approach them separately. Casa Francisco is listed at 18,000 euros, around 80 square meters across 3 floors, working out to roughly 225 euros per square meter. 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms according to the structural data, though the written description mentions that a shower bathroom still needs to be created, so that's something worth clarifying directly with the agent before you settle on what you're actually getting. Currently vacant, energy rating G, stone construction, beautiful and characterful, but stone walls in an older vacant home always need a close look for damp and waterproofing. The 3-floor layout of the main section goes like this. Ground floor on Via Catania side has a room and a toilet under the staircase. First floor is the living room. Second floor has the kitchen and a panoramic terrace. Then separately, the ex-stable on the Salita Mattagliano side sits at ground level, currently disconnected from the rest of the house. If you want to bring that space into the main living area, you're looking at cost for the connection works, flooring, damp proofing, ventilation, and full interior finishing of what was previously an animal stable. The key things to flag here: even though the main section is described as well preserved, you still need to check the roof, terrace, stone walls, electrical, plumbing, and damp, especially with an older vacant stone home. The ex-stable section needs cleaning, odor treatment, biosafety checks and damp proofing before it becomes livable space. On costs, geometry survey around 300 to 800 euros, notary fees and taxes around 2,500 to 4,500 euros, creating the shower bathroom roughly 4,000 to 12,000 euros, basic X-stable conversion around 10,000 to 30,000 euros, terrace waterproofing around 2,000 to 8,000 euros. A full renovation across 80 square meters using the Idealista 2026 framework could reach 80,000 to 144,000 euros. Again, the extreme end, but it needs to be on your radar. On daily amenities, being in central Cianciana means Casa Francisco shares the same walkable setup we've already covered. The Tuesday weekly market at the main square about 300 meters away. La Spesa Che Ti Piace supermarket around 450 meters. 2 pharmacies within 450 meters. Unicredit ATM and Banca Popolare Sangelo within 350 to 450 meters. Medical Center and Guardia Medica within 600 to 700 meters. The nearest emergency hospital at Ribera is about 20 kilometers away, roughly 25 to 30 minutes by car. The clock tower is about 300 meters. Southern Sicilian beaches around 30 minutes by car. Sicily Mountains about 20 minutes. Scala dei Torci and Valley of the Temples around 40 minutes. Verdura Golf Resort about 35 minutes. Palermo Airport approximately 118 kilometers, around 2.5 hours by car. On market pricing, 225 euros per square meter puts Casa Francisco about 58.72% below the Cianciana average of 545 euros per square meter as of April 2026, and about 72.63% below the Agrigento province average of 822 euros per square meter. Of the 3 Cianciana properties we've looked at today, this one has the highest price per square meter, 225 compared to 108 for Casa Argirò and 217 for Casa Leone. It's also the smallest of the 3, but the stone construction brings its own aesthetic appeal that the other 2 don't have in the same way. Casa Francisco makes the most sense for someone who loves the look and feel of traditional Sicilian stone architecture, wants a mid-range entry point with the upside of eventually opening up the X-stable space, and is happy to verify the bathroom situation with the agent before committing. It's not the right fit for someone who wants to move in without touching anything, or who doesn't want to deal with converting a former animal stable into living space. The stone aesthetic, the panoramic terrace, and the 18,000 euro price tag are all genuinely compelling. But the real story of this property is whether the buyer is ready and has the budget to unlock the full potential of 2 very different spaces that have